Hello, my name's Tom Singer. We're here for Concert Cues, and I get the great pleasure today of interviewing one of my oldest and best musical friends, Amy Schendel. A lot of people in Billings already know Amy because she's the director of choirs at Skyview High School, and because she's been in just a few shows through the years.
A few through the years, yeah.
Yeah, so let's start there for fun. We're singing jazz this time.
We are. You know, it's funny. I think I vary, as far as my genres of music go. I have my choral side. Certainly I get to spend every day being my choral musician. I have my clarinet player side, which
Right.
I got the degree in and thought that was really going to be my main gig, but ended up finding a lot of passion for singing and a lot of success in that. And so have had the opportunity to do a lot of musical theater and have some fun with that, as well as a fair amount of opera. But always I had this little secret passion kind of in the back for jazz, and particularly jazz standards, big band jazz or jazz combo with vocals. And some of my favorite stuff to listen to when I'm all by myself is individual jazz singers, and that's always been a passion. And so a few years back, I admitted that passion to some friends in town, particularly John Roberts and Scott Jefferson and things, and these people encouraged me to kind of act on that and to do some performing. And so I've had this opportunity now and then to do gigs around town, whether it's at Walker's or down at other restaurants and things, and just to get to do jazz with friends. And so it sort of has led along the way to now getting this opportunity where it's this big band symphony jazz experience, and in a concert this year that has morphed because of necessities to slim down the number of people that are performing. And I'm thrilled that I get to be a part of it. I'm just absolutely thrilled.
So let me take you back into one thing you said there about, did you listen to this music when you were growing up? Is this something your parents played, or did you discover it somewhere later on?
I think my parents are very, very musical.
A little bit.
Very musical. Both of them have music degrees. But I would say growing up, it was probably a little bit more classical symphonic music that I heard, and that was from my mom a little bit more, and then John Denver from my dad. So
Of course.
I have a variety of musical influences along the way, but I wouldn't say either of them was very much into jazz. And when I went to school at the University of Montana, I had the opportunity to audition for the jazz band there. And I did play some saxophone, but I didn't think of myself as a great saxophone player. But I read pretty well, and so I made it into the jazz band and got all this opportunity to be more exposed to it. And then along the way, just discovered, Ella Fitzgerald and standards, and Natalie Cole I love to listen to, and all these wonderful singers, and just got to listen to their take on standard things. And that's what I would spend my time listening to, driving along the roads of Montana, coming home for breaks and things like that. So
what distinguishes singing jazz from singing, say, opera?
from a technical standpoint, of course,
Sure.
There's differences. And, some of the...
Well, let's talk about those too.
Operatically for me, opera is this whole body experience as far as using the voice. And the whole voice and the meat of the voice and the projection of that to be able to project over an orchestra. And the biggest switch for me when I started singing a lot more jazz was the fact that I was mic'd. And other than the musical theater stuff I had done, I dislike being mic'd. It was a weird feeling, and hearing my voice come back at me. And so a lot of it for me has been the ability to allow more nuance in the performance, allow my voice to do more subtle dynamic changes and things, because I'm not having to cut an orchestra, if that makes sense. And so the microphone is doing some of that work, and I can bring things way down, embracing my lowest register, and being able to play around in that really low kind of meaty part of the voice that as a soprano I didn't get as much experience with, I guess. So and the freedom. And in some ways that's what jazz is about, right? Being able to explore your own take on things. And so I think there's singers in the back of my head that I've heard before that probably I mimic to some extent. And then there's just the version that I think is in my heart and soul that wants to come out.
And so in this concert, you're playing with a big band. It's not as big as probably what was intended.
Sure.
But it's big enough that it's got its own force going there.
Yeah.
And how much can you bend that when they're heading down the path they're heading down?
You know, I think some of that, the luxury I guess I have is good writing. And I would compliment the arranger of 6 out of the 7 tunes I get to sing is our own Scott Jefferson. Here in town, he's the woodwinds professor at MSU Billings and a great jazz performer and writer. And what I discover about his writing is he has this wonderful ability to, when it's time to highlight the band, you know, he brings those dynamics up, he brings the volume up, he showcases what those instruments are capable of, and then as soon as he wants the vocal to come in, he brings that down in a way that it doesn't make it hard. It's not hard to still do the version that I want to do, the feeling behind it, the dynamic contrast and that sort of thing.
And different than singing with a piano, a pianist that has accompanied you a lot.
Sure.
I mean, there's that kind of communication. Any opportunity for that here or not?
There might be, to an extent. There's a verse in Silent Night. When he originally wrote it, I get to sing a verse and then the band plays a verse, and then I sing another verse. And the night that we read this through, the band was playing their second verse, and I was hearing an improvised line over the top of that I thought would communicate well with the band. And so he and I talked about it, and it's possible we're going to take and repeat that verse. So you'll find out next week. And if we do, the band would play it once as it's written, and then they would play it again, and I would get that opportunity to kind of communicate within that. So I'm hoping for that chance.
Yeah, okay. So, Scott Jefferson, how big is the band going to be? He's going to be leading it.
Yeah, so he is the first tenor player within the band, and then the band it's a standard big band in jazz, which is 5 saxophones, 4 trombones, 4 trumpets, and then the rhythm section. So this particular rhythm section is piano, bass, and drums. I don't think we're using a guitar on this one. So don't know what that adds up to, but that's the big band at this point. And they have some tunes all their own that are either originals or original compositions on some standard holiday tunes, and then the ones with the vocals as well.
And you said 7 tunes?
Yeah, I get to sing 7.
And you made me curious. You said there's one that he didn't arrange.
There is one he didn't arrange. So Ann Harrigan found us a tune that is called, well, it's debatable what it's called. It's either Hey Santa or Hot Santa, that is sung from the point of view of Mrs. Claus, who would rather enjoy her husband stay home on Christmas Eve, maybe instead of, going out and spreading Christmas cheer around the rest of the world. She's kind of likened it.
She's tired of the elves.
Yeah, well, she even says in there, there's nothing the elves can't do. So I think she wants them to go and him to stay.
And I mean, is he an elf or not? I mean that.
Well, I guess that is debatable.
Yeah. Puzzle. Okay. And what are some of the other tunes you're doing?
So the other one's Silent Night, which Scott wrote in a very gospel feel.
Ooh.
And yeah, it's awesome, and it really embraces my low range. And he was great. He would always ask me what key I prefer to sing things in, and we would negotiate, what was better between this and that song and things. We got a little Jolly Old Saint Nick up on the housetop. Really great, Oh Come All Ye Faithful. And then, the Jolly Old Saint Nick is the one that is a New Orleans style beat to it. So it's really fun. It has this great kind of backbeat thing happening through there in the drums. It's really, really fun to sing. And on that one, he actually wrote a couple of original verses that reference some of the members of the band and what they want for Christmas.
Well, sure.
Yeah, including my husband who's playing bass trombone, and I get to say Aaron on the end, he would just like some pals. So I guess he's lonely down there.
So, speaking of family,
Yeah.
Aaron, you're married to the director of bands at Skyview.
I am.
You've got a few other people in your family. We didn't mention your parents' names. We probably ought to do that.
Yes, so Brad Brown is my dad, and he's does have a music degree, although he used it working for the government his whole life long, but really fine vocal musician, has done a lot of singing even with the symphony in years past.
I've sung with him many times.
Yes, you have. Good bass buddies.
Yes.
My mom is Marianne Jacobson, who is a clarinetist, doctoral on the clarinet, and she played in the Billings Symphony for 18 years, I think, and then some in the Bozeman Symphony. And
But she's also a pretty decent vocalist. I've sung
she
with
is
her.
also
as well.
a very good vocalist. I should mention that. Yes, yes. In fact, great memories of my childhood and my mom singing to us, so that was really wonderful. And then even my twin sister is, she is a bassoonist in 3 or 4 symphonies in the state. It varies. Teaches bassoon at the University of Montana. My brother would have been a musician, but he didn't want to follow the rest of the family. So, yeah, he didn't go that path, but he actually is a really fine musician, and now he encourages his kids to do it.
Oh, great.
I think to take over where he left off. And then I have 2 kids of my own who are very fine musicians as well. My son is a bassoon vocal music education major at University of Montana, who one of his favorite things to do actually there is playing the percussion ensemble, and I got to watch his live streamed concert on Tuesday night, so that was fun. And then my daughter is a senior in high school at Skyview. And she's she plays bass in the orchestra, cello, and sings, and is in a lot of musical theater and stuff too. So yeah, we have a lot of music in our family.
Yeah, that's really neat.
It is.
That's so fun. That's coming from a family where I seem to be the only one. It's hard to imagine how much fun that experience would be. So we've talked about the arrangements in the concert. When is the concert, and where are you performing it? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so the concert is Saturday, December 19th at 7:30. We will be performing it at the new Lockwood Auditorium at Lockwood High School, which we got to perform in September, and it's just beautiful. Beautiful place to be and to perform, and wonderful people out there that just take such good care of us. And then our audience, however, will not be able to be in the auditorium, so you get the excitement of watching from your own home on your couch and watching the live stream of the performance.
Yeah. And is it going to be just available during that concert time?
I believe so. I believe it's only available.
There'll be some reruns? Okay, good.
Maybe there'll be some reruns.
We should be better informed before
Yes,
we
we
start
should.
this. But we know the music. That's what
Yes.
we're supposed to know.
Yes.
And we know that we're going to be on Facebook, and so people have an opportunity to at least hear about it. And then the symphony website will tell them the details
Yes.
that we don't know. And so let's talk just a little bit about your day job. I mean, the teaching of the kids and instilling the excitement in them.
Yeah.
What's your best part of that?
Oh, how do you pick a best part? I love my job. I'm really lucky to get to do what I do. And if I'm being completely honest, I never thought I'd be teaching choir. I thought I was going to be a band teacher. And so it was very accidental that I ended up teaching choir. And in fact, I ended up teaching choir before I realized that I could sing, if you will. I mean, I always had sung in choirs and things, but didn't feel like I had any right really to teach anybody how to sing.
I'm sitting here kind of stunned by that.
It just
I know you were an instrumentalist.
wasn't my main area. Yeah, I thought it was all instrumental, but now that I teach choir, and don't tell my husband, but I would not change it for the world. I would not want to teach band. It's very loud in that room when I go in there. Very loud. But no, I love teaching choir, and I think the big difference for me is lyrics. I think I've realized what an impact that has on me and on the students when we get to talk about the poetry that's in the music and the lyrics that the composer or the poet intended and how it impacts these kids. I think if I had to pick a favorite part, it's the chance to watch students, especially, these are young adults really that I get to teach. And to watch them transform from their freshman to their senior year, because I get to keep many of them for all 4 years, which is wonderful. But to watch them be so vulnerable when it comes to music, open themselves up completely. And that favorite part is also the greatest thing I miss right now because of masks. They're singing fine with the masks on. We're doing the thing. Like, I'm glad we get to do it. But that whole face and that expression, I miss facial expressions. And so while I feel like they still connect to the music, there is a difference. And I get their eyes, but there's something about that whole experience that I am missing right now. And I know it will be back, but just watching them be so vulnerable and open themselves up, sometimes be terrified and have great experiences come of that. Students who think, this is not something I feel comfortable doing, and yet end up having a great experience doing it. It's those moments. So, I often don't remember this bad memory, I guess, the songs we performed even at the last concert. I'll just kind of put those out of my mind and move on to the next thing. But I remember the kids, and I remember their response to them, if that makes sense. So that's the best part.
So now let me flip that on its head a little bit. You as a student, tell us about some of your favorite and most inspirational teachers.
Oh, there is one that comes to the top of my mind right now, and he was not a teacher, but he is my greatest inspiration as far as choral music goes, and that's right here in town, Dr. Stephen Hart. And I think I've had the opportunity to work with him on a number of different levels. He is our great symphony chorale conductor, and I've not sung in the symphony chorale, but certainly watched him rehearse them. But
you've sung with us a time or two.
And I did, just in February got to. And he's been my greatest choral inspiration, just watching him draw that passion out of the singers that he works with. And I think in many ways, I think I modeled that after him, even in my own teaching. I hear his words come out of my mouth sometimes. And I've always said I want to be him when I grow up, so I really mean that. But I've had wonderful directors along the way. One of my greatest inspirations was a man I student taught with, and that was in band, but Russ Newberry, who was at Bozeman High School at the time, and he was only there 1 year after I student taught with him. And I got offered the job to assist him that year, but didn't stay in Bozeman, came back to Billings because my son had been born and we chose to move closer to family. So I wouldn't be where I am now for sure if I had stayed there and taken a band job.
Yeah. So how did you get the first job?
Which one?
As a choir director.
The choir director. So I first moved back to Billings in 2001, and Jacob was 3 months old. And I got a call from Rob Wells, who was the head of the Billings.
Activities.
Yeah, well, he was the music and arts person for Billings Public Schools. And he says, I hear you're in town and we are in need of a general music teacher. And I said, I wasn't really going to teach yet. My baby is really, really young. I don't know. This was just a few weeks before school started. And he said, well, would you just do like 1 day a week? Okay, maybe I could do 1 day. Will you do 2 days a week? It felt like I ended up agreeing to 3 days a week, and I did 2 years of part-time general music, which was wonderful, wonderful. And I still got to be home with my baby, and then then Alyssa was born, and the second year teaching was the year of the teacher's strike, and that was a tough year. And I had my second child, and I thought, I think I'm going to take some time with my kiddos at home. And I taught a lot of private lessons. I had something like 40 students going at a time, so that was busy, and remark opera course for kids.
Full-time job.
Yeah, so I had plenty of stuff going on. And I was home for 2 years, thought I was going to stay home until my kids were in school. And then I got this call from a great friend and colleague, Aaron Roberts, who said, the choir job at Will James is opening up, and I think you should apply. And I'm going, choir, really? Do you think? Are you sure? Well, he twisted my arm, and I applied and got it, and did 1 year at Will James. And then it was the summer before my second year there, and I got a phone call. I was actually in Rome, of all things, and my mom helped Rob Wells track me down, where he said, Lynn Jordan is going to retire from Skyview. He's going to take an early retirement. He'd had health issues, and it was just really tough. and we would like to move you up to Skyview. And you have 24 hours to decide. So it was one of those things where if I had planned that course, that's not at all what would have happened. If I thought I was going to be a choir conductor and go down this path, that's not what would have happened. But now looking back, everything fell into place the way it needed to, and I ended up with the greatest job. So
not only the greatest job, but the greatest opportunity to sing with groups
absolutely
like the symphony and
absolutely.
like this big band, Big Sky. I've forgotten
Rimrock. Jazz Collective.
the Rimrock Jack.
Rocky Mountain Jazz Collective. We're doing really well together. Rocky Mountain Jazz Collective. I knew there was an R there.
And we're looking forward to it very much. Thank you
too.
for spending a few minutes with me this afternoon. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet. See you, Amy.